Good morning, everyone. I'm pretty excited to have a chance to present to everyone. If I could get you to introduce yourself and just give me an idea on what level that you feel you're at in regard to your skill set when it comes to the Google suite of education, some of the tools.
Hi, I'll start. I'm Sonia. I teach at West Kings, grade 9 and 10 English and Social Studies. I generally would say that I have a pretty good grasp on technology and tech integration, but I looked at your session description and realized I very basically use Keep. I'm sure there are features in Meet that I don't know about, and I don't use Jamboard, so I guess I'm not as far along as I thought.
Okay, thank you. How about you, Megan?
Hi, I teach grades 10 to 12 in Monastery, Nova Scotia at East Antigonish School. My course load changes. I have about 14 different courses I teach over a 2-year cycle. And I've been using, I used some other web pages before, and then kind of got forced into using the Google platform.
Right.
And then I was grateful for that actually when COVID rolled around, because I felt really confident in interfacing, because I do that with my students as just a matter of regular teaching. I try to get them on that platform as a link between home and school.
Sure.
But I still have lots to learn. I've been all over the Shake Up Learning site and trying to learn from that. That's a really good tool for me anyway. So, but I always like to hear a real person talk about it and learn their tricks of the trade. And I really appreciate this opportunity. Thanks.
Yeah, no problem, Megan. And I like that descriptor because I think that's how I describe myself as well. My primary job is not technology. I'm a regular classroom teacher. And the things that I'm going to talk about today, hopefully, if you take one or two of them away that you can add to your instruction come the fall, whatever that looks like, then obviously today's been a positive. Leslie, how about you?
Hi, I teach primarily English 12 in Amherst, Nova Scotia, and I'm also the Languages and Fine Arts Department head. So as much as I want to take away information for myself, I also want to be able to explain it better to my other teachers. So.
One of the things that will be of value, hopefully, is the fact that I'm going to leave some links and offer some resources that you guys can go back to at your own time and replay things and ask questions. And obviously, at the end of the session, if there's something that pops into your mind a week or two from now, feel comfortable dropping me an email, and hopefully I can help you problem solve if I don't necessarily have the answer right at my fingertips. Vernon, good morning. Tell us about you.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Vernon Taylor. I am the Family and School Supervisor for the Chignecto Family and Chignecto Central Regional Center for Education. I was previously a P to 12 principal at a rural high school, or a rural school, and my intention for the session this morning is just to try to support administrators and teachers in harnessing the power of Google Apps.
Awesome. Good morning, Erica.
Good morning. I teach high school, and I'm getting pretty comfortable with like Google Classroom and being able to use that. But I would love to learn a little bit more about Google Keep and Google Jamboard and things like that.
For sure. With our numbers too, I'd like to kind of keep it a little bit more casual if you guys are okay about that. If we end up spending a bit more time on one of the apps versus another, I think that's not a bad thing either. Good morning, Sarah. Can you tell us where you teach and maybe a little bit about your experience with the Google tools?
Hi there. I work at a high school in the South Shore. I've been using Google Classroom and some of the associated apps for a while, but Jamboard is the one I'm most curious about today.
Okay, that sounds good. So if we're ready, we'll kind of get going. I'm going to share my screen, and then if you can let me know whether you're able to see everything, that would be great. Hold tight. You should be able to see my presentation. And maybe Chris, let me know if that's showing up for everyone.
Yes, we can see it. Thank you, Megan.
Okay. So when I'm not teaching full time, I also have a graphic and website design business because I like to keep myself busy. So I spend far too much time making things look hopefully pretty, and so it's something that I'm trying to get better at. Here are I'm going to start out with talking very basically about Google Docs. One of the things that I thought was kind of neat is the fact that with Google Docs, you can actually get yourself going very, very quickly using a quick launch. I don't know if you guys knew about this, but if you just type in your browser address bar, docs.new, assuming you're logged into your Google account, it'll quickly, automatically launch a brand new version of Google Docs. So that's my first little hack for this morning. It also works for slides and sheets. I haven't tried it with anything else, but I thought it was pretty cool because obviously you can kind of get yourself rolling right away. Now, I'm a big fan of typography. I don't know if that makes me a nerd or not, but one of the things you can do is you obviously have your default fonts, and one of the things you can do is control what your default fonts are in Google Docs. And one of the things I think which is good about that is you can you don't have to change it every time. So maybe Arial isn't your favorite, which is the default. You can actually highlight text and right click and make it your default font for your Google Docs or slides moving forward. But what I wanted to talk about was adding more fonts. If you click on the fonts and you roll down, you can actually click on fonts and the add more fonts option. And you'll notice on the screenshot that I have here, there's a whole bunch of them that are listed. And as you click them, you can add them to your library of fonts. So there is more to the world than Comic Sans, which many teachers seem to love. So this is where you can add to that list. Depending upon your Center for Learning, they will allow you to add add-ons. One of the main add-ons that I use for Google Docs is something called Extensus Fonts. And it just gives us an entire other catalog of fonts that you possibly could want if you're making that. Yeah.
Nick, we have a question from Sonia asking where is the option to make it a default font? Can you set a new default font?
Yeah, let me open up a new window and I'll show you, okay? I've never had a moderator before. This is awesome. Anyone else have the challenge of not being able to see your audience while you're typing or showing your own presentation? Yeah, I know you can do two windows, but it really is a bit glitchy, I find. Maybe that's just me. But I'll just open up a regular document here and I'll make sure. Now, am I sharing this one? Chris, do you see that?
We're seeing your newsletter doc now. Okay. And there was a follow-up question that you can address as well where you're talking about this. It says, does this have to be done on each individual doc or will it apply to all new docs?
It will apply to all new documents, which is kind of neat. So now, if you were to, I'm highlighting this text here, it's just dummy text, lorem ipsum. And if you highlight, now after seeing this, I haven't done this for a little bit of time, but if I click on text and I go to options, do you notice how it says save as my default style? So that's where it shows the body will be. It'll now use this source sans as the default for any time now I begin to type in new paragraph or a new document. Now let's put that to the test by opening up a new document. We should always label these. This is good workflow, I guess. Test text. Oops. Bear with me here. So you notice now, instead of Arial, it has Source Sans as my default, even though this is a new document. As a geek, I think that's very, very cool. What do you guys think? Is that kind of nice?
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
Sonia also is asking, does this apply to font size as well? Could we do the same kind of trick and set a default font size?
Yeah, absolutely. So if I were to type in sample test text, something like that, and we wanted to make, yeah, this is going to be recorded, Megan. If something like this, like the default font size is 11, again, if I wanted to make it bigger, maybe for my students, or like, I don't know if you guys, when you put your slides up onto your whiteboard, a lot of times you have to zoom in because it's not large enough. So maybe you want to make it as big as 18. Again, same thing. If I highlight it and I click on text here and I go back to options, again, I can save that as my default style. And not only has it changed the font type, or it also has changed the font size. So again, just to make sure I'm actually correct on this one, I'll open up a third sample document patiently, and it didn't work the way that I wanted it to. So let me look into that one, but I do think that you should be able to do it like that. It should change the size. But yeah, so far the font type does work. Now, let me come back to my presentation here. One of the things which is important a lot of times is making sure that you're sharing it in the format that you want. Our administrators, no offense to administrators, absolutely love Microsoft Word. I don't know if anyone else has that issue. And sometimes they would like your document that you're giving them in Word format. So when you download it, obviously you can have all these different options as to what it looks like: rich text format, PDF, Microsoft Word, etc. And then you can attach that to an email or share it however you would like. One of the values of sharing it as a PDF as well is sometimes you want to lock the document and you don't want them to make any changes to it. And that would be why you would do it at that point. The other piece, when we talk about sharing, I think everyone's pretty comfortable about how we share. We click that big blue button to the top right, and we can create a link, or we can actually add people manually to that element. But one of the things you want to be able to do is, if you click on the gear above this, when you're adding people in, you can take away their ability to add other people or to download, print, or copy. Now that might seem very restrictive, but there could be some security reasons. There could be reasons why you want to do that. Now, this is separate and apart from Google Classroom, where you create individual copies for your students when you're handing out an assignment. But this is just, for your collaboration and sharing, probably with parents or colleagues. So I hope that makes sense to everybody on this one. This is a little bit of a hack for both slides and sheets and Google Docs. But if you want to create a link and then edit the link itself, you can, instead of putting in where I've highlighted /edit, you can take that part of the link out and put in \copy. And what that does, it forces people to make a copy when they open up your particular document. That's a lot of information. I hope that makes sense to you guys. All right. I'm going to jump over to Google Classroom at this point. I hope I'm not going too fast. Are you guys feeling okay?
I'm going to speak up. I'm seeing in the chat box some positive responses, but I think your pacing is great, Nick.
Okay.
I'm liking all these tips and tricks that you're sharing with us. Some I've seen, some I have not.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah. All right. So here's my Google Classroom. It's a mix of my high school classes and a couple of my university courses that I'm teaching. But one of the things I wanted to share with you is how I organize my Google Classroom. Now, one of the things that you can do, obviously, to set up, is everyone aware now that Google has created an automatic Meet link into Google Classroom? So you can share that with your students. Awesome. One of the things that I have struggled with my own students is getting them to move beyond the first tab, which is the streaming tab, to move over to classwork. And what I wanted to show here is how I organize things. And if you use the idea of topics, the topics are basically units. And so as you can see, as I'm scrolling here, for me, each of my units, I've made it into handouts, which is material, daily work, which is things that aren't graded, and then my actual assignments. Now, I do that for all the units. Now, things have roughly came to an end in March, so we only got to 2 units, actually 3, I guess. But you'll notice on the left-hand side, this is automatically populated by Google. And so if my students just wanted to see Unit 1 assignments, they could click on them and bring them all in just like that. Or if they wanted to see maybe my slideshows that I provide for them, they can go in just to material. Now, one of the things which is relatively important, and I think good for an organizational point of thing, is you can actually move these things around. So this whole block, like e-learning, which was when we moved to online learning, it has a drag and drop organizational element to it. And this automatically updates on the left-hand side here. So when you're saying a student can't find something, you go, it's in Unit 2 assignments. So you go to the classwork tab, click on Unit 2 assignments, and then you can see that particular assignment. And it's just a little tip, a trick that I like to use in terms of being organized. Any questions on that? Does that make sense? Okay.
Sorry, I just missed the piece on what you said about drag and drop.
Oh, sure. What you can do in when you're in that classwork tab, and you can probably see me scrolling through, I can grab the title of my Unit 1 assignments, and I can bring them underneath maybe my classwork. And that's the piece that allows the navigation on the left-hand side to get updated. So I use that to make sure that the most recent unit is at the top, is pinned to the top, so that they can understand we go from Unit 4 to 3 to 2 back to 1. And that's one of the most basic ones. So can you embed a topic? Let me read that again.
Sorry, what I mean is, let's say you had Unit 1 material and Unit 1 classwork. You can drag the material, and then it would be a new heading under the next one, classwork. Or I shouldn't use, sorry. Let's say I have Unit 1 material and I dragged it under Unit 1 assignment.
Yes.
So it would, when I saw the heading Unit 1 assignments, underneath that would be a subtopic now of Unit 1 material.
Oh, can you organize it like a website almost?
Yeah, like or even like your storage, like there's no subtopics, like you have one topic and then you have your item.
Yeah, I don't think there are subtopics. I can look into that, but I don't think there are. Topics is relatively new, but I can see how that would be valuable where, you could have unit 1 and then everything that went under unit 1. Is that what you're Megan? Yeah.
That's what I had done. I had my unit on motion, and then underneath I had each thing, but the icons varied. So I would have my material section for some reason ended up separate, but my any docs or assignments or whatever were all under that unit title. But I see what you're doing there. I understand what you're saying. I like that I like how you organized it by identifying the unit first and then what the grouping was.
Yeah, and I know for sure in the new Google sites, you certainly can create a menu system which would show that. But I'm not sure about Google Classroom at this point.
Nick, for a second, and just say that and someone can correct me if I'm wrong, but I have the feeling that once you create topics now in a classroom, you can transfer those topics with those assignments between Google Classrooms.
Yes.
I believe that's correct. Yeah.
Yeah, you're right on that one. All right. Let me come on back to my presentation here. No one's fallen asleep yet, I hope. I always make sure my students with online learning will pop their webcam on about every 5 or 10 minutes just to let me know that they're still alive. As we hop on back here. Yeah, so within my presentation here, I've talked about how you can move things around. Everyone familiar with grades? I think I blocked out the student names there. And someone who supports the Boston Bruins didn't hand in a lot of assignments. But this would be an example of how Google has really kind of updated this piece where, it's not directly linked to PowerSchool now, but at least we can have a bit of a grid or a table that shows our marks and we can transfer them over. I wanted to talk about, I'm not sure what's happening here. I wanted to talk about Google Slides. It would be probably my favorite of all the Google tools that are out there. If you haven't already visited the good people at Slides Carnival and Slides Mania, I highly recommend it. They are incredibly powerful jump starts to creating very nice looking Google slideshows. Now, has anyone ever used these before as an example? Awesome. Okay, so if you do have a chance, go visit. What you'll notice, I'm going to bring up, I'm going to move myself over to Slides Mania, and I want to show you just how powerful some of these templates are. So I've been there already this morning. They have a teacher planner that just got published that really shows the ability of internal links within Google Slides. And that's a fancy way of saying it allows you to jump from one slide to the other. Now, the person who creates this, I believe she's in Spain, but she does it at no cost. These are all free, which is the best price that we could ever have. And it may not look like a lot right now, but what this is, I make my screen a little bit larger. This is your entire weekly to-do list by month that you can edit. You can put information into. It's all editable. and it's all already linked. So you could, and I've seen other people do this, actually put their entire course in here for students based upon month and having active hyperlinks. Now, just to give you an idea of what it looks like in action, I'll present it, and I hope it shows for you guys as I go full screen on this one. The idea is that you would already make extra copies of the slides that you needed in terms of multiple pages and so forth. You could actually have this for your sub, and they could just go to the actual day that you needed, or you could extract a slide that you could just send them as a PDF. But for those of us who like to plan, it's pretty laid out. So if you notice, there's tabs that it's a digital document. It will jump me to September, October, and this is all the navigation, which, you know, on the most basic level is just a calendar. And then within here, you could have a note which would be connected for each of the days, and you can jump your way around. And so this is an example of templates that move us beyond just being able to put together a presentation. Now, jumping back to my presentation, hold on. Sorry, I'm jumping around a little bit here. Are you guys interested in Google Jamboards? That's one of the things I wanted to talk about a little bit. Okay, so I think it's easier to show you versus just talk about it. So like all the Google apps, there's some you put in the name of it and .google.com, or use the waffle or the grid on the left-hand side. If you go over to Google Jamboard and you're trying to figure out what the heck is this, it really is digital sticky notes. And it's very powerful in a couple of different ways, and I'm going to show you how you make an original one. So to start with, there's a button on the bottom right-hand side, just a big plus sign, and that will get us started. Again, with making sure we get ourselves organized, we always want to title all our documents, including a Jamboard. This is really a virtual whiteboard. And if you consider it like your whiteboard at the front of the room, this is where students could maybe come in with like an entry ticket. So if I wanted to put in a sticky note, all your tools are on the left-hand side here. We can color code these sticky notes to keep ourselves organized. So maybe this is something that yellow always means a question of the day. So what did you do with your summer? And you can share this Jamboard with your students. And one of the things you can do is you can resize a sticky note. You can rotate it if you wanted to, using the three dots. You can edit it, you can duplicate it, you can delete it. And the idea behind it is, if you were to share this, it would be a neat way for students to, and you could present this right in Google Meet. You could get them to go, all right, guys, here is the key question. This is my laser pointer. I need you guys to come over here and make your own sticky note. And you guys are going to be in pink. And I want you to answer the question. I worked all summer. And so you can see how, if all your students, your first task of the day was to answer the prompt, it will be a way to get them engaged and to make it a little bit more interactive on that level. Now, I wanted to show you some examples of how I've used Google Jamboard before, and I go to some of the ones I've already created. Bear with me here. When you first open it up, it will have your, this is your dashboard, and I've used this one in my psychology class as an example.
Nick, Megan Kennedy is asking, is this like Trello?
I've never used Trello. Do you know, Chris, about that?
I don't know Trello either. Megan, if you want to tell us about that, that would be well received, I think.
Sorry, I'm just a rookie on Trello. My family is using it to communicate, and it kind of links both of those to the calendar one that you just showed in the Slides Mania, and this idea of sticky notes. But this is more useful with my students, so I might just stick with this one.
Yeah.
But I did want to ask, so we would send them the link for the particular Jamboard, and they would all go into that at the beginning of, say, the Meet class, and then you could use that as a check-in.
Exactly. So
Perfect.
a lot of times, like if you, like all the other Google tools, you have that big share button on the top right-hand side, and it'll give you a link. You can drop that link. Generally, what I would do is, depending on how I created my Google Meet, I drop it into the message board, and then they can click there, and so they would browse to the Jamboard on their own, and that would be that check-in as we talked about. And then I can share the Jamboard in terms of sharing my screen, and we can look at what people had to say in regard to whatever the prompt happened to be. Let me show you. So this is an example in Psychology 12. This is my consciousness unit. We're talking about dream interpretation. There's, as an example in this, there's probably about 8 very common dreams that have happened in multiple centuries, in multiple countries, and it just kind of blows them away that the pursuit dream, the falling dream, your teeth falling out, all those sorts of odd sorts of dreams. So what I've done is I've got a visual that had them browse through the Jamboard. And let me come back to the Jamboard here for a second. You'll notice up top, there's this sort of screen thing. What it is, it's really the same as a Google slide or a page in Google Docs. So when I allowed them to, they were able to browse through the slides and put their own sticky note on the type of dream in this example that they have had before. And so this was a way that I got them to interact on multiple, one Jamboard, but it has multiple frames. And then you can rearrange the order of these, you can delete them. So it allows Jamboard to be quite powerful on that level. One of the other uses that I've seen for Jamboards is small group work. So your group is working on frame number 2, and there's your digital whiteboard. Your group is working on frame number 5. And so then we can come back together as a group and what have you guys come up with for your frame, and let's have a look at it. I can see quite a bit of value in that piece. I'm going to come back to my presentation. I apologize if I'm jumping around a bit, but I'm trying to fit everything in before we have to go today. So these are not my examples, but I thought this was a very cool way of showing how you can create a whole part of a lesson within Google Jamboard, and it starts to look like, you know, one of those conference whiteboards or tables. And again, when we talk about Jamboard, one of the things I've used it for is creating my own unit and an ability to go from one frame to another, where unit 1 is on one frame, unit 2, unit 3, unit 4, and I'm putting my ideas down as I'm putting everything together. And maybe all my assignments will be in one color. The videos that I'm going to use with links that you can put in will be in another. And it's a good planning way. That makes sense to everyone? Everyone good with Jamboard? Or do you have any questions? Oh, yeah. It's a very good point, Sonia. One of the things that I have found is etiquette. This is a great opportunity for us to talk to our students about what's appropriate, what's not. And you can take away the rights of people to write on the Jamboard and obviously edit it. But yeah, I would see it as an opportunity versus kind of a negative on that level. Google Keep, speaking of sticky notes, is one of the more underappreciated elements and tools that Google does offer. So I'll talk about it by showing it. I think that's probably the best way. With me here. So this is the dashboard for Google Keep. And this looks like a bit of a mess right now, but I'm going to clean it up. And one of the ways you can clean up your dashboard is to archive things. Things are still here, and I'll explain that in a second, but I think I'll actually get rid of that one. So this is what your blank dashboard looks like for Google Keep. And what you can do is, so we started a note, and a note might be something like maybe a course you're working on, like Biology 11. Think of these sticky notes as information that you want to keep. So maybe you were looking for a particular document. You can color code this by maybe your subject level or something like that. One of the things which is really, you might have come across a website which was really good and that you wanted to take note of, CNN for an example. You want to collaborate with, so maybe you're working with a colleague and you wanted to be able to work on the same note. That's a pretty good thing. But there's other elements too. So if you wanted to add an image, for example, you can move your way around as well. And I'm just trying to think why this is not working for me. I thought we could browse the web for an image. So I'm going to look for that right away here. Okay, it's a website to go to if you're ever looking. Oh, Ditch Textbook. If anyone did visited it before. It's getting very excited here. That's Matt Miller. If you have an image like this, and I'm going to try to copy the image. Maybe that'll work for me in my Google Keep. Right, there's my link, and I'm not sure why that didn't work as my image, but I'll save this on my desktop here. Bear with me. I want to show you a neat little thing that Google Keep does. I'm going to get rid of that link there. If we add the image, browse to my desktop, here it is. one of the things that it does, so then maybe I wanted to make note, this is something that I wanted to grab. If you come in here to the More button, it will actually grab image from a text. And it uses, so it's not perfect, but if you had like a copy of something, a PDF, any kind of static image, it's actually pulled the text from this static image, and it's given us the ability to now use and edit that content. So that's kind of a cool element to this piece. Now, one of the things, I've gone into my archive here. I did the same thing with this book called Empower, but this is where all of these are organized. So maybe if you look over on the left-hand side, there are these labels, and this is a way that I can put all my master's research in here. This is my research course that I was teaching, my Psychology 12. I obviously haven't put anything in there, but you can have as many labels as you want. So as you're finding information for, it's kind of like Google's version of Pinterest, I guess. As you're finding resources for a particular course, you can actually add labels to this. One of the things I thought was kind of neat as well, I'm going to come back to notes. If I were to do something like this, if I go to-do list, this will allow me to create checkboxes. So it might be create entry slip. So this is something for myself, or I could actually share this particular list with students as a way to create milestones or to chunk an assignment. Research YouTube or something. And you might go, all right, that's not that exciting then. But one of the things which is kind of neat is you can come back into your Keep, and as you get that stuff done, you can check it off as completed. Now, the last thing I was going to show you with Keep before maybe answering some questions about it is if I were to find some information, and if I look at the side panel, Keep is already part of this. So any notes that I've already taken, I can grab them and I can bring them onto my slide. And I can use that information. And so one of the things that we're able to do as we kind of move our way around is integrate these different elements. Now, let's come on back to our main screen here. Any questions about that one? One of the things that I would say the Google Keep is good for is the ability to kind of go on the fly to keep yourself organized. And one of the things that Google Keep will also allow you to do is it can be location specific, where it'll give you a notification. So you can have yourself a note that will only open up once you get to school or once you get yourself into a particular classroom. And I thought that was kind of a real powerful piece. Now, that's kind of my formal part of the presentation. I wanted to take a bit of time if you guys wanted. Are there any other tools, or is there any tool that we've already talked about that you'd like to know a little bit more about? Everyone's fairly quiet, which is okay. I would like to, if you guys are okay, show you a couple of quick little tools in Google Slides, which I thought have always been fairly underdone. If we come in here, one of the real neat pieces of Google Slides is what it can be used for. So by default, you have a slide which is wider than it is tall, so it's in a landscape view. But if we jump our way down and we come down to page setup and we go into custom, this is where you can make yourself a wide variety of posters. And I have my students do this as well. So maybe they wanted to make a legal size poster, and we can have legal size or letter size or whatever size you would like. And
Nick,
yep.
Sorry, we're not seeing your screen anymore right now. We're just seeing
yammering away. Okay, hold on. Thank you for that.
Thank you, Megan.
Yeah. Sort of like in class when I'm just talking away to myself. Sorry about that.
Not at all. It's difficult doing it blind.
Yeah. Okay. Can you guys see that? I should say sample slide.
Yep, we've got it now.
Okay, perfect. So I'm going to come back and show you how I did that. If I come into slides, and one of the things which is powerful about it, as I was saying, is your ability to use it for more than just a presentation. And a lot of times, and this is one of the things that I use with my design students, is we create other things with it. A communication element, things like that. But if we come over to page setup, we can go down to custom, and we can make this any size that we want. And so a lot of times when we're presenting, we would obviously just use those sort of recipe card size elements here. But the logic here is there's sometimes we want to make something that looks more like a poster. And so if I changed it to a legal size piece of paper here, I'm going to add an image, and I have some add-ons here, including something called Unsplash, which is a very powerful free set of professional images, which I think they've got millions of them. So we could grab something like teaching, which is a fairly safe search term, and we could grab that image and drop it onto our slide as we patiently wait for it to work. And all of a sudden now we've got a background that we can use. I'm just seeing gray right now, so I'll try that again. Thank you for sticking with me on this one. It's not going as fast as I thought. I'm going to go to plan B in a second here if it continues to go a little bit slow. Here's my plan B. We're going to borrow that book from Matt Miller, who's I'm a bit of a fan of. So here's our poster. Now, one of the things that students like to be able to do is to customize any element here. So we can do things like insert, and I use this for things like in class, something like word art. And I might put, in this example, design. Now, I have a little tool called, this is a Chrome extension called Color Pick Eyedropper. So I'm going to actually get the actual color of that book. And the neat part I can do with it, making banners and designs here, is I can change the fill to the color that I just sampled. And so it's exactly the same color as that book. And we can change the font or the size or any elements like this. Now, one of the things you might say, so what are you going to use this for in class? Well, if I create a series of posters, which I then print out on our color printer in the lab, I could maybe outline or summarize a novel or a unit of study, or have students, instead of creating a traditional set of questions or a PowerPoint, they have to create a set of visuals that are of different scale or size. And this is the way that we can use Google Slides for that, because when we go to print this or publish it, we can download this as a PDF or as a JPEG. And if we go to printing this, it allows you to print it just as you would any kind of large-scale image as individual slides. So we could have, and I've had my students create an example would be a series of posters advertising Nova Scotia tourism. So this is the way, or maybe a set of characters from a novel, or maybe in physics, some different elements of energy or something like that. So those are some of the basic ways that I've used Google Slides.
Nick, there was a question from Kelly. Do some of these add-ons cost money? I don't see this one as an option when I look into Google Slides.
They don't. One of the things for the different extensions, it really depends on your, I call them school divisions because I'm from Saskatoon, but your Center for Education. Some of them don't allow you to necessarily add whatever add-ons you want, but most of them are free, and I'll put a list out there that you can add, and it depends on which one you're looking for in the Chrome extension. But an example would be, so images are always an important one that we're looking for when we're trying to produce assignments and projects for our students. Unsplash, and you don't even need the extension, but if you go to unsplash.com, that's a very good source for free and appropriate images, and I use them all the time. And you can give Pixabay is another one that you can use, which is extremely powerful. And the last thing that I wanted to talk about with Google Slides, I almost forgot. Sorry, I get pretty excited about this tech stuff when I forget. Adding audio to Google Slides. I don't know if anyone's done that yet, but you can use simple recorders, like, I'm just trying to think of one that I had. I'm looking at my list here that I had for you guys. Cloud Audio or Soundcloud are both, Cloud Audio is an extension that you get for Chrome, or Soundcloud is a standalone free web service where you can basically record your voice. And one of the things for engagement that I would like is you can record on your phone simple instructions for a slide. You can then upload that to Google Drive. Why that's important is then for each of the slides, you can actually explain to your students what it is they're looking at or what it is they're supposed to do on a particular assignment. So it's a way that you could push this assignment out into Google Classroom, but as they make their way through the project, which is organized in Google Slides, they can hear your voice explaining what it is you wanted them to do. And obviously you could record a little video as well that you could embed on a slide. So I hope this is, this has been of help for you guys. This is the formal end of what I have for you today.